So big news on the recruiting trail for USC. Could it impact Oregon? I'd love if it would. Xavier Griffin is the number 2 linebacker in the class of 2026. 5-star, 6'3", 200 pounds, incredibly rangy. Sideline to sideline player, can come off the edge as well as a blitzer, and is really, really good. Like, his tape is very impressive. It's not hard to see why he's one of the most highly coveted recruits in the entire country. I bring this up on today's show for 2 reasons. Number one, should Oregon go after Xavier Griffin? Yes. Yes, absolutely. There is no downside to trying to make this happen. Do I expect that to happen? No, because he's already locked in visits to Ohio State, Alabama, Texas, and Florida State. There's a crystal ball in for Georgia. We'll see where he winds up. Oregon getting into the fold. Look, I think they can out-recruit any of those places. I know because I've seen them do it before over the years. However, does not appear like Oregon is going to be one of those teams that gets into the fold, though it would be great. He's different than Justin Flo. I'm just throwing. I mean, you talk about 5-star linebackers at Oregon. Yeah, we should bring up Noah Sewell because he had a great career with the Ducks before Justin Flo. But, you know, Flo still has one of the craziest high school film tapes I have ever seen for any position. But certainly a linebacker, number one film guy. And Griffin is not quite as crazy there. But for those Oregon fans out there that have followed this USC offseason, because it does impact Oregon, make no mistake about it. Their ability to recruit Southern California the way they've always been capable of but haven't will result in Oregon not getting a couple of kids a cycle they might otherwise be able to add to the recruiting class. It doesn't mean they're going to be shut out of Southern California. They got Richard Wesley, talked about him earlier this week on the show, 5-star edge from Sierra Canyon down in the Southern California area. So Oregon is not forbidden, incapable, unable, never going to pull a kid out of Southern California again. But I know that there are plenty of Oregon fans out there who have followed the USC offseason, who still have, even with Griffin's decommitment, the number 1 class in the country. Part of that is they have 27 recruits. Oregon's class, by the way, is at number 16 nationally. I fully expect that to rise and get back into the top 10. The question that I have in my mind, will they be able to get back inside the top 5? Anthony Jones is named to watch, by the way. Oregon's got a visit for him lined up this summer. 5-star edge defensive lineman. And I think it's notable that Oregon is going pretty heavily after the defensive line. They've got Wesley, of course. They've got Tony Cumberland, who's a borderline 5-star recruit as well up front. They've got a couple of other defensive linemen, Viliami Moala and Dutch Horsk are the other two. This class is starting to resemble a little bit the 2023 class in particular that Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy brought in. That was the first full cycle they had to go at the trail, and they prioritize the defensive line. And Oregon has seen that turn up on the field in a great way with guys like Mateo Uiagalelei or Tatum Tuioti or Blake Purchase, who was one of my big standouts from the spring game. I think everybody saw that he stood out, had the scoop and score, of course, and was just a menace for offensive linemen coming off the edge. Played as a true freshman, redshirted last year. Strange trajectory. I expect him to be in the fold come this fall. I think he and Elijah Rushing, a former 5-star, are prime candidates to fill, whatever void was left by Amarion Winston and Jaden Moore, who were part of Oregon's pass rushing specialist package last year. I think those guys are going to take those snaps, and maybe they'll rotate in more, and Mateo won't have to play all the time at defensive end or edge, or that jack linebacker position, I think as they call it. So anyway, bringing this back to Griffin, I'd love for Oregon to get in the mix. I'll be watching for any sort of news, not just because it'd be a nice little shot back across the bow, so to speak, of, hey, USC's flipped a couple of Oregon kids. Yep, got one right there. Not expecting that to happen at this time. We'll see. We'll see if it changes. I would certainly love for it to do so, but I'm definitely not expecting that. But just goes to show you, as well as USC is recruited in this cycle, no one's perfect. No one ever has been. No one ever will be. The Trojans reportedly, I don't know how I'd feel about this for Oregon, quite frankly. Well, I know how I feel about it for USC. I think I'd feel the same way for Oregon. USC apparently didn't like that he's taking visits elsewhere. Like, they don't want kids that are committed to USC verbally to take visits elsewhere. I personally, not that picky about it. Kids want to take visits. It's fun. They want to see what else is out there. Got no problem with it personally. If a kid's talent is going to be worth going through that process, and Griffin's definitely is, then I think you bite the bullet a little bit. But, some coaches and staffs aren't about that, and certainly I understand it. So I got a request, and I'm always down to take requests and questions and whatnot, to talk about spring sports, because the postseason rather, is either here or right around the corner. So baseball and softball both had phenomenal seasons again. They're both ranked inside the top 10 nationally. Softball got the number 16 seed. I don't know how that works. I really don't. They've lost 7 games this year. I don't know. I don't understand how all of that works. But baseball, depending on which poll you look at, is ranked inside the top 5 or top 10 in the country. The 4-game stretch where they beat Oregon State all 4 times certainly helps, because the Beavs are a top 10 team perennially. Softball's hosting a regional for the first time since, I believe, 2018. First pitch is Friday, 4:30 Pacific time on ESPN+. They play Weber State. They should win that game by a lot. Weber State, great softball program in the Big Sky. The gap between the talent on Oregon's roster and Weber State's roster out of the Big Sky is rather significant. And the other team that is in the regional alongside Stanford with the Ducks is Binghamton, who play in the America East Conference. So this is an Oregon-Stanford regional. It should be, at least, for Melissa Lombardi's team. And with the season they have had and how good they've been, and they've been as high as, I think, number 3 in the polls nationally, not getting out of the regional would be pretty disappointing. I feel that way to a lesser extent for baseball. It'd be disappointing, but not as surprising. I would be pretty surprised if softball failed to get out of the regional that they are hosting. We don't know if baseball's hosting a regional yet. They're 38-13 on the year. They have a series at Iowa that will decide their fate seeding-wise in the Big Ten baseball tournament. Softball actually lost their first game to Michigan in the Big Ten tournament, which, when you don't have as much to play for, I get it. I guess that loss punished them a lot in the rankings. Still, though, they're hosting a regional, which is what they certainly deserve. But yeah, these are programs that were both in super regionals last year. Oregon was one of, I think, just 2 or 3 programs in the country. Arkansas, I think, was another one, that maybe Oklahoma State, that had both baseball and softball in the super regionals. And these are both College World Series caliber teams. No question about it. The Oregon baseball pitching staff has been rounding into form. Softball's just been dominant from the jump. Like, they have been so good all season. Baseball was good, not great for the first 2/3. Last couple of weeks, they've been playing their best baseball. So they go to Iowa City to play the Hawkeyes, and in order to get the number 1 seed, they'd have to sweep and then get 1 loss from UCLA. But the Big Ten tournament, kind of like the Big Ten football championship game. Hey, it's fun, good to win, hang a banner, all that stuff. Not really the priority. Like, cool, would be fun to win, and they, got to get to hang a banner of sorts with the Big Ten regular season championship, the softball hung. But both of these teams, I crisscross baseball and softball, but you get the point I'm making here. Like, these are both teams that can get to the World Series. Baseball, back-to-back super regionals, would love to see him take the next step. Softball, super regional last year. This team is really good enough to take the next step. The good news, and on this optimistic note, is that when we as the Oregon community get our hopes up because of solid information gathering about an Oregon team in the postseason, they've never let us down before. Yeah. So let's hope this is different. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Till then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.